Today my goal is just to help you with 4.1 through 4.7. This should help you to do better on your quiz on Monday. Let's look at number 1. It says to write the mixed number as an improper fraction. Who can tell me what it is that I need to do? Go ahead.
Multiply 8 times 15.
Okay, what is 8 times 15?
120.
And then what do I do?
Add 2.
Then you're going to add 2. So what's my answer?
122 over 15.
122 over 15 is correct. Okay, simple enough. Let's go ahead and go on to number 2. Number 2 asks us to write the improper fraction as a mixed number. When you have a fraction bar, what operation is that? Dividing. Okay, so we're going to divide 53 divided by 6. Here's the problem that a lot of people are trying to do. They're trying to go 6 divided by 53. Please make sure the numerator is always the one that you're dividing first. How many times can a 6 go into a 53? 8 times. What is 8 times 6? 48. What is 53 minus 48? 5. So what is my mixed number?
8.
Okay, I heard 6 as the whole number. This right here, guys, is going to be your whole number. And then what's my fraction? 5, 6. You take your denominator, and that's going to always be this number right here. Okay, so the correct answer is 8 and 5, 6. Now, just like we did before, you can double check this. You could do right there, 6 times 8 is 48, and then you add 5 more, and then you know your answer would be 53 over 6. So that's just a simple way that you can check to make sure that you got your answer correct. All right, let's go to the next one, number 3. Write the fraction or the mixed number as a decimal and tell whether the decimal is terminating or repeating. So for this one, you can go ahead and use your calculator. 5/12. What does 5/12 mean? Divide what? 5 divided by 12. What is 5 divided by 12? Okay. 0.416 repeating. Is that repeating or is that terminating? It's repeating. Anytime that you have that repeating line, that line on top of a number, that's telling you right there that it is a repeating number. This one does not look exactly like this one does. What's the difference between this one and that one? One of them is a mixed number. I need to make that look like a fraction. How do I make that a fraction? Make it improper, okay? So 5 times 2 is plus 3. So what is my improper fraction? Okay, the work that I'm going to want to see on your quiz on Monday is this. You're showing me that you understand that you have to turn it into an improper fraction. Now, many of you are putting in your calculators 5 divided by 13. What's wrong with that?
It's 13 divided by 5.
Okay, you always start with the numerator first, guys. 13 divided by 5. So what's the answer?
2.6.
2.6. Is that terminating or repeating? Why is it terminating?
Because it's not repeating.
It doesn't repeat. It ends. If you remember when we said terminating, it means any decimal that ends. It's asked us to tell whether the number is prime or composite and explain your answer. Just the boys. 98. What do you think?
Composite.
Why is it composite?
2
times 49.
All right, there were 2 numbers that you could have put in there. A lot of people just said 2 times 49. Now, you only have to give me one reason why, but what was the other reason that... What was it?
7 times 14.
7 times 14 also proves that that one is composite. You could put either of those examples there. What about 17? Prime. Explain your reasoning.
1 times 17.
1 times 17. That right there proves that the only number that can go into 17 is 1 and 17. Number 5 says to write 2 fractions that are equivalent to the given fraction. What does this word equivalent mean?
Same.
Equal to. Okay, who could give me an example of how I could give another equivalent fraction to 8/12? Isabel.
8.
Okay, a 4 can go into both of them, so I can divide by 4. When you do that, what do you get?
3. 2/3.
2/3. Okay, that simply says this is equivalent. Am I finished?
No.
No, why?
Because you have to write 2 fractions.
I need 2 fractions or 2 examples, okay? You could divide by the same number on top and bottom. What else could you do? You could multiply. Who wants to give me a number that we could multiply by? Carlos.
2.
All right, multiply by 2 on top and bottom. And Carlos, what do you get? 16/24 is correct. This is just 2 examples. You don't have to do that. You can see here we divided by 4. We multiplied by 2. You could have divided by 2. You could have multiplied by 5 on top and bottom. Could have multiplied by 32 on top and bottom. It doesn't matter. As long as you multiply or divide by the same number on top and bottom, that will give you an equivalent fraction. Okay, any questions? All right, let's go to the next one. Number 6. Write the fractions in simplest form and tell whether they are equivalent. All right, simplest form, what does that mean I need to do?
You need to divide them by...
You have to divide, okay? What is a number that goes into a 22 that also goes into a 30?
2.
A 2. So let's divide by 2 on top and bottom. Katie, when you do that, what do you get?
11 and 15.
11/15 is correct. Now let's go ahead and reduce 40/75. What number can go into 40 that also goes into 75? The number 5. Just remember, whatever you divide by on top, you also have to divide by on bottom. Asia, when you do this, what do you get? 8/15. Alex, is 11/15 and 8/15 equivalent to each other? No, they are not. The only way they are equivalent is if they are the same exact fraction, and those are 2 separate fractions. Okay? All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, you guys just tried to do this one on your own. Find the GCF and the LCM by using prime factorization. Let's talk about the GCF. What's GCF stand for?
Greatest common factor.
Greatest common factor. Let me just get some of your answers. Who can tell me something you got for the GCF? What'd you get?
7.
Okay, a 7. Does anyone have a different answer than that? What'd you get? 14. Does anyone have a different answer than those? Okay, raise your hand if you have 7 or 14. Okay, let's just check this out. Greatest common factor. Remember the saying, factors fit into numbers. Do both of these numbers right here fit into the 14 and the 42? They do. Okay, so which one is greater out of that, 7 or 14? 14 is greater. So the 14 makes a little bit more sense, but let's just check it out to see if that's correct or not. We got to do upside down division. What should I do?
2.
Divide by 2 and get a? Okay, and we know 7 is prime, so I'm done. 42, divide by? 2, you get 21. Now divide by?
3.
And you get a 7. Okay, so we want to now put these in order from least to greatest. Then what do I do?
You circle the pairs.
You circle the pairs, and what happens to those pairs?
You multiply them with the 1.
The 2 become 1. So those 2, you bring it down 2, and you multiply them together, and what do you get? 14. Okay, so the GCF is 14. Remember, a 14 can fit into a 14, and it can fit into a 42 also. Okay, so that's our first one. Now let's talk about the LCM. Who would say that you found the LCM? All right, what'd you get, Michael?
42.
A 42. Who has a different answer? What do you have? 21. Who's got a different answer? What do you have? 84. Okay? Raise your hand if you have at least one of those 3. All right, let's check it out and see, okay? Least common multiple. Remember, multiples get bigger. So you have to know that this answer right here has to be bigger or equal to both of the numbers. Let's talk about the number 21. Is a 21 bigger than this 14? Yes. But is a 21 bigger than that 42? No. So that shows you automatically 21 could not be the answer because it's not the same number or bigger than my biggest number. So let's check out. Do you guys remember the one difference between LCM and GCF?
LCM is leftovers.
Leftovers. Just remember that LCM, we think of the word leftovers. You do all of your work exactly the same as we did this right here, but instead we have to also bring down the leftovers. So the 2 become 1. Then remember this right here, that 3 is my leftovers, so I have to bring that down, and then the 2 7s become 1. When you multiply 2 times 3 times 7, what do you get? 42. So your LCM is 42. Remember, this is what you're trying to find. The least common multiple that both of these numbers will go into, okay? Can a 14 go into a 42? Yes. How many times does a 14 go into a 42?
3.
3 times, okay? Can a 42 go into a 42? Yes, okay? So our answer does make sense. The LCM is 42. Raise your hand if you got both of those right.
Me.
All right, good job. Let's go on to another example. Once again, this is something that will be on your quiz on Monday, so I want you to try to do number 8 on your own. As I just walked around, it looked like a few people forgot how to do this. Write the decimal as a fraction or a mixed number. Remember, we typically look at this and say 6.34, but what is the correct way to read that number? 6 and 34 hundredths, okay? How can you figure out it's 34 hundredths?
Because there's not a third digit.
Look, this is the tens place, this is the hundreds place. So that means we have 34 hundredths, okay? Now, like I told you before, you are never allowed to give me something unless it's in simplest form. You always have to reduce it. What number can go into a 34 that can also go into a 100?
2.
A 2. So you need to make sure that you go ahead and divide by 2 on top and bottom. When you do this, what is your answer?
17 over 50.
Okay, not just 17 over 50.
6 and 17 over
6 and 17 fiftieths, okay? So then just go back through, relook at your instructions. It says to write the decimal as a fraction or a mixed number. Is this one a fraction or is it a mixed number?
Mixed.
It's a mixed number, okay? So that's how you do a problem like that. Number 9 has asked us to copy and complete the statement using less than, greater than, or equal to. For this kind of a problem, you must show work. What's the first step you have to do before you do anything else? What is it? Find the common denominator. Okay, so I want you guys to try it on your own. Stand beside your chair once you think you have the correct answer. Okay, let's think about it. What is a common denominator for a 9 and a 6?
18.
18, okay? We know that it cannot go into a 9, but it can go into an 18. So now you're going to show me work. How do I get from 3/9 down here to the 18ths?
Multiply by 3.
Multiply by 2, okay? So what's my new fraction?
6 18.
6/18. Next one, how do I get from a 6 down to an 18?
Times 3.
Times 3. Do times 3 on top and on bottom, and what do you get?
12 18ths.
12/18. Now just read it from left to right while you're looking down here. 6/18 is what?
Smaller,
Less than 12/18, which means 3/9 is less than 4/6. Last question for today, number 10. I want you to order the fractions from least to greatest. You're going to do it the same exact way we just did our last one. You are finding a common denominator for all of them. Okay, make sure you show me your work. Go ahead and try it on your own. As I look at all of these, my denominator that's the biggest is a 16. Can all of them fit into a 16?
Yes.
Yes, they can. Okay, so your common denominator for each of these is going to be a 16. Now you've got to figure out how to get 1/2 to turn into a 16th. How do I do it? Multiply by 8. What's the new fraction? 8/16. Next up, Carlos, 3/4. What do I multiply by? Times, multiply by 4 on top and bottom. What do I get? 12/16. Next up, Michael, what do I do?
You multiply, what's the name? Oh no, you bring up 7.
You just bring down the 7 because the 16th is exactly the same. Next up, Alex, what do I multiply by?
You multiply 2.
By 2, and what do I get?
A 10.
A 10, okay? Emma, what's the tiniest number that we have there? 7/16. What's the next one, Michael?
8.
Okay, 8/16. What is it originally? No, look at the 8/16. This is it. What did it originally say? 1/2. Next up, Kyla, what's the next smallest one? 10/16, which originally said 5/8, so I'll go ahead and write 5/8. And finally, Jakari, what do I have? 3/4. Remember, always write it as original form, whatever it was that it said to start with up here, okay? So that is how you put things in order from least to greatest. Your homework for over the weekend is to review these notes right here in any sections 4.1 to 4.7 that you don't understand, okay? And just remember, bring a book with you to read when you're finished with your quiz on Monday.